So section 133 is one of my favorite sections in the Doctrine and Covenants, along with section 145, and also in the Pearl of Great Price, Matthew 1, I think it's called the Joseph Smith version of Matthew 24. And then we have Matthew 24, and I think it's Luke 21, all deal with the Olivet, the Mount of Olives sermon of Jesus Christ, but it's expanded in all these. So we have all these witnesses, section 45, section 133, portions of section 88, and then you have Matthew 24, the Pearl of Great Price version of that, all these witnesses of this event. I have probably a little different take just from studies that I've done than maybe the typical LDS take on this. I think that the Mount of Olives, where the Savior comes and plants his feet on the Mount of Olives, which we were there just a couple of weeks ago, on top of the Mount of Olives, making the descent down to the Garden of Gethsemane, just an amazing experience. Walking that path that Christ walked several times, coming from Bethany into Jerusalem, and there's a little tiny shrine I've talked about, the Church of Ascension. That's where Christ left from. That's where he'll come back to, and it's just an amazing thing. I think we need to go back to Isaiah to get a good understanding of what section 133 is talking about. I really do. So I've talked about this before, but it just needs to be reiterated. So if we go to Isaiah, here we are. If we go to Isaiah chapter 2, this is really interesting because we always skip the first verse. So let's do it this time. Let's skip the first verse of chapter 2 and go to the second verse. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Now, there's been a few Latter-day Prophets, Joseph Smith not being one of them, that have said that third verse is, out of Zion shall go forth the law, and they say that's the New Jerusalem, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and wherever the New Jerusalem temple will be, that's where the law comes forth. And then the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Now, you can't argue that. That's where the word of the Lord will come out of. But having been to Israel a few times now, and particularly Jerusalem, Mount Zion, Mount Moriah, all these places, we have to read verse 1 now. We have to read verse 1 of chapter 2 of Isaiah to get the real meaning. The word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning what? Judah and Jerusalem. Judah and Jerusalem. So Judah being the whole area, the people of the whole area, or Zion, and then specifically Jerusalem is the mount, or Old City Jerusalem with the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, where Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac, where the foundation stone is underneath the dome of the rock. All these things point towards that. It's where the Savior will come to his temple suddenly. So really, this is all about Judah and Jerusalem. It is. Now, having said that, the restored gospel of Jesus Christ through the prophet Joseph will always be a shadow of that. and this is how we have to look at this, because all through section 133 we have both the gospel to the Gentiles and to the Jews, back and forth, back and forth. So the United States being a Gentile nation, that's where Ephraim comes into effect. I don't classify myself as a Gentile unless you're talking where I live in a Gentile nation. But being of the tribe of Ephraim, I am part of Israel. I am part of Israel. I'm not from the tribe of Judah, but in the latter days, the Jews, and the word Jews encompasses everyone that's focused on coming back or going to Israel, modern day Israel and Jerusalem. So let's look at a couple of verses here, just more than a couple. Let's read here. Hearken. So this is section 133. So you got to keep in mind what Isaiah is saying, because those words are that the word of the Lord will come forth out of Zion, that the out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. That's repeated by other prophets later on in the Old Testament. So back to section 133. Hearken, O ye people of my church, saith the Lord your God, and hear the word of the Lord concerning you. The Lord who shall suddenly come to his temple. I submit that could be all kinds of different things. It could be the Kirtland temple being that temple, but ultimately it's the temple in Jerusalem. The Lord who shall come upon the world, and the Lord who shall suddenly come to his temple, the Lord who shall come down upon the world with a curse to judgment, yea, upon all the nations that forget God, upon the ungodly among you. For he shall make bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of their God. So if we're going to associate coming quickly to his temple, this will be the temple in Jerusalem. This will be a major event that everyone will know about. Wherefore prepare ye, O my people, sanctify yourselves, gather ye together, O people of my church, upon the land of Zion. Now, we can have a type and a shadow, and it could have been Jackson County, Missouri for a period of time. It could have been Kirtland for a period of time, that was Zion. It could have been Nauvoo, period of time, which is Zion, the center stake of Zion, the center stake of the church. And it also could be Salt Lake now. But Zion is Zion. And if you haven't been to Mount Zion, it wouldn't make sense. But Jerusalem is the ultimate of the Mount Zions. That's where we get the name from. Go ye out from Babylon. Babylon is modern day Iraq, okay? But by go ye out of Babylon, that was King Nebuchadnezzar. Babylon, they had everything. They were so wonderful, and they were the kingdom that destroyed the last of the kings of Israel. Okay, and it just wiped out the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was taken over by the Assyrians of the kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, and sent to the north country, scattered everywhere. The southern kingdom survived another 100 or so years. King Hezekiah did everything he was, but then Zedekiah, who we're familiar with, a contemporary of Lehi and Jeremiah, he's the one that got conquered and wiped out by the Babylonians, right? Okay, now the Jews were permitted to go back when the Persians conquered the Babylonians, and the Persians is modern day Iran, okay? And that's when you have King Cyrus, who Trump's been compared to King Cyrus, and they're allowed to go back, and that's when we have the later period of prophets, okay, that wind up our Old Testament. So here we go back. Go ye from Babylon, be ye clean, and bear that bear the vessels of the Lord. The vessels, be ye clean, those that bear the vessels of the Lord. Uh, uh, be ye clean that bear the vessels of the Lord. The vessels of the Lord have to do with the temple and temple worship. All those vessels, okay? Now you could say that's just individuals, but I don't think so. I think this has to do with the temple in Jerusalem. Yea, verily I say unto you, again, the time has come when the voice of the Lord is unto you. Go ye out of Babylon. There we go again. Gather ye out from among the nations, from the four winds, from one end of heaven to another. Now see how it always goes back to things that had happened in the history of the Bible, and then what we experience is a shadow or a type of that in the United States and elsewhere. Send forth the elders of my church unto the nations which are afar off in the islands of the sea, and forth in foreign lands, call upon all nations, first upon the Gentiles, and then upon the Jews. And behold, and lo, this shall be their cry, and the voice of the Lord unto all people, go ye forth unto the land of Zion, that the borders of my people may be enlarged, and that her stakes may be strengthened, and that Zion may go forth unto the regions round about. So this would be a type or a shadow of what exists in Israel, modern day Israel. Yea, let the cry go forth among all people, awake and arise, and go forth to meet the bridegroom. Behold, and lo, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Prepare yourselves for that great day of the Lord. Talking about Matthew 25, the parable of the 10 virgins, and 5 were ready and went out to meet. So we're tying all these things that the Lord spoke on the Mount of Olives. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour. And this is one of the scriptures that when I thought of Watcher Palmer or watching or Cow's community of watchers, this is one of the scriptures that inspired that. Because we're commanded to watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour, but we know the season, so that's why we're watching. Let them therefore who are among the Gentiles flee unto Zion, okay, and let them who be of Judah flee unto Jerusalem, unto the mountain of the Lord's house. Wow, that's pretty specific that there's going to be a temple in the mountain of the Lord's house. So we're going to flee, if we're in the United States or elsewhere, we're going to flee to the temples, not necessarily physically, although we do go there physically, but in a spiritual sense. But in Jerusalem, it will be a physical thing. There will be a physical temple, and the Jews will flee to it, and it will be in the tops of the mountains of Israel. The Temple Mount, I don't know exactly the elevation, but it's 2,000 something feet. And there's if you go to the east, you'll go into towards the River Jordan and the Dead Sea, which is like 12 to 1,300 feet below sea level. So literally Jerusalem is on a mountain, the top of the mountain. Hearken and hear, O ye inhabitants of the earth. Listen, ye elders of my church together. Let me skip that. Okay, not because I just I have my little tiny scriptures here, and it's not only is it hard to read, but I don't have it highlighted what I want to read. But anyway, for behold, this is verse 17. For behold, the Lord God hath sent forth the angel crying through the midst of heaven, saying, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, and make his path straight, for the hour of his coming is nigh. Now listen to this. When the Lamb shall stand upon Mount Zion. That's Jerusalem, just outside of the old city Jerusalem, Mount Zion, but the whole area. So Mount Zion is kind of where the city of David and would go up. And it actually is a little bit higher than Mount Moriah, but it's all part of the same ridge line, if you will. So when the Lamb shall stand upon Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having the Father's name written on their foreheads. Wherefore prepare ye for the coming of the bridegroom, go ye out to meet him. There we go again, another reference to the parable of the 10 virgins and Christ being the bridegroom. Us people, humans, are the, and some will say just members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Not true, in my opinion. These will be good people that will be left as terrestrial beings, because the earth will be terrestrialized at Christ's coming, and we'll be able to go out and meet him. We'll be survivors, if you will. Those that are a telestial will be burned at his coming, and we'll read more about that. But what will happen is the members of the church will be included in that 50%. So half of the members of the church won't be part of that. President Kimball says that, but that's not in his book. I can't remember if it's Faith Precedes a Miracle or I think it's probably Miracle of Forgiveness. That he states that the members of the church are represented by that 50%, and that is true, but it's not exclusive. It's the church is included in that, if that makes sense. Okay. And he shall utter his voice out of Zion, and he shall speak from Jerusalem, and his voice shall be heard among all people. There it is. There it is. And it shall be a voice as a voice of many waters, and as the voice of great thunder, which shall break down the mountains, and the valleys shall not be found. Now, a lot of people think that the visit that Christ comes on the Mount of Olives is just one of the second comings. I think these verses here say to me that this is the final coming of Christ. I would say that the visit that Christ, the Father and the Son visit to Joseph Smith in the latter days began those second comings, and subsequent visits were those. But when this happens on the Mount of Olives, this is it, because this is where he left from. This is where he comes down to, and this is where there's judgment and everything else. And it shall be a voice out of many waters, and as the voice of great thunder, which shall break down the mountains, and the valleys shall not be found. And so that's it, because the Mount of Olives will be split in twain, the Dead Sea waters will be healed, all that. Okay. He shall command the great deep, and it shall be driven back, and the north countries and the islands shall become one land. Now, this is an interesting thing, because we talk about the days of Peleg and that the earth in one mass, and that these will all come back in one mass. Personally, I think it's more of a communication thing, that everything will be as one, as far as communication, understanding, and knowing. That's just my opinion. And the land of Jerusalem and the land of Zion shall be turned back into their own place, and the earth shall be like as it was in the days before it was divided. So this is going to be the land of Jerusalem and the land of Zion, which is Jerusalem specific, where the temple is, and then the surrounding areas of Zion in Israel will become one land again, and one, the center. Christ will, President Nelson in the April 2020 Ensign said that this is where Christ will rule from all during the millennium, is from Jerusalem. And the Lord, even the Savior, shall stand in the midst of his people and shall reign over all flesh. And they who are in the north countries shall come in remembrance before the Lord, and their prophets shall hear his voice and shall no longer stay themselves. And they shall smite the rocks, and ice shall flow down at their presence. And a highway shall be cast up in the midst of the great deep. Now, this is all metaphorically, in my opinion, a description of really what's going on now and will be completed during the millennial reign of Christ. And that is all those that were scattered to the north countries by the Assyrians, all those tribes, which includes the tribe of Ephraim, will all be able to have the opportunity, if they choose, to return back. And the words of their prophets, Joseph Smith being one of them, will be with everyone, because he was the tribe of Ephraim. He's of the northern kingdom. And all this will happen. All this will happen to where we'll have all the words from everyone. Now, I know there's some LDS scholars, as well as those that are just lay people, that really take this literally, that it might be from another planet, or that there's polar ice caps and people living under that. I'm not one of those. I think this is a highway of information that comes forth, and we're seeing it happen, and it will even increase dramatically during the millennial reign, where work for the dead and the temples being built now in massive amounts, right, will all be utilized during the millennium for this very purpose of what these scriptures are talking about. And then the healing of the earth, and in the barren deserts they shall come forth pools of living water, and the parched ground shall no longer be a thirsty land. And this is not only talking about Israel, because that's happening already, and people returning to Israel have made it that way, and it will just continue to increase from that area and spread forth throughout the whole earth. And then that's where Christ coming, the earth becomes a terrestrial existence. And they shall bring forth their rich treasures unto the children of Ephraim, my servants, and the boundaries of the everlasting hills shall tremble at their presence, and there shall they fall down and be crowned with glory, even in Zion, Israel, by the hands of the servants of the Lord, even the children of Ephraim. And they shall be filled with the songs of everlasting joy. And a shadow also will be in the United States. It's a shadow or a type. That the pattern is set in Jerusalem and Israel and Mount Zion. That's the pattern, or that's the original, the pattern, and then anything that's similar to that in the United States is the shadow of that, okay? And they shall be filled with songs of everlasting joy. Behold, this is the blessing, the everlasting of the everlasting God upon the tribes of Israel, and the richer blessing upon the heads of Ephraim and his fellows. And they also of the tribe of Judah, after their pain, shall be sanctified in holiness before the Lord, to dwell in his presence day and night forever and ever. It's a beautiful blessing, right? And now verily saith the Lord, that these things might be known among you, O inhabitants of the earth. I have sent forth mine angel flying through the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, who hath appeared unto some and hath committed it unto man, who shall appear unto many that dwell on the earth. Now, this is I'm just looking here real quick. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. This is John the Baptist. He's the messenger preparing the way of the Lord. Now, this is, to me, that's who it is. Now, when you think of priesthood keys, priesthood itself, dispensational beings, they all have to deal with the Holy Land. They're all in the Holy Land. They're all in the Holy Land that appeared to Joseph Smith. Now we have the angel Moroni. He didn't restore any keys. He just pointed to the Book of Mormon and the artifacts that were with the Book of Mormon, the gold plates, let's say. But when it came to authority, judgment, it's the original 12 apostles. We have committing keys of the kingdom in the Kirtland Temple, all Israel, everything originates from that area. Once that is implanted in our heads, it gives us a good understanding of everything here in the United States is a shadow of that. Okay, so, and we know through the Book of Mormon that the original 12, and when I say original, I think the only question mark is Judas, because he was replaced with Matthias. And so Judas probably lost his position there, but the 12 will judge even those that were the 12 disciples in the Book of Mormon at Christ's coming, when he appeared to them after his resurrection. He said they will be judged by the original 12. Okay, so it all stems back from that. Adam, Noah, Enoch. Now some will say, no, that was all in Jackson County, and that I disagree. Now I know that we have record scriptural that Adam met with posterity in Adam-on-Diamond, Davies County, I believe. But that's not necessarily where the Garden of Eden was. And travel for 900 years, I'm sure these guys had the technology and the ability, being that close to God, to do all kinds of things. But the origin of, say, the creation and Adam and Eve, and when they were, whether in the garden, whether you're a proponent of the garden being the earth, whole earth being changed, and so they weren't like cast out of a portion of the earth, but the earth was changed because of the fall. If you believe that, or if you believe that there was actually a garden and it still existed, and they were cast out of that into the lone and dreary world, regardless of what you think, my personal belief is that is the same place where Abraham was to sacrifice Isaac. It's the same place where Christ will reign as King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And that's on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That is the center of everything. But I do believe that Adam had a meeting of some sort with his posterity in what we would consider Missouri. But I don't think that has anything to do with the Garden of Eden. That's just my opinion. Okay. Then we kind of step back and we go through all the things that probably aren't in lesson manuals today. And it shall be answered upon, this is verse 41, upon their heads, for the presence of the Lord shall be as the melting fire that burneth, and as the fire which causeth the waters to boil. O Lord, thou shalt come down to make thy name known to thine adversaries, and all nations shall tremble at thy presence. When thou doest terrible things, they look not for. Yea, when thou comest down, and the mountains flow down at thy presence, thou shalt meet him who rejoiceth and worketh righteousness, and remembereth thee in thy ways. For since the beginning of the world have not men heard nor perceived by the ear, neither hath any eye seen or God besides thee, how great things thou hast prepared for him that waiteth for thee. And it shall be said, who is this that cometh down from God in heaven with dyed garments, yea, from the regions which are not known, clothed in the glorious apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. And he shall say, I am he who spake in righteousness, mighty to save. And the Lord shall be red in apparel, and his garments like him who treadeth in the wine vat. And so great shall be the glory of his presence that the sun shall hide his face in shame, and the moon shall withhold its light, and the stars shall be hurled from their places, and his voice shall be heard. I have trodden the winepress alone, and have brought judgment upon all people, and none were with me. And I have trampled them in my fury, and I tread upon them in mine anger, and their blood have I sprinkled upon my garments, and stained all my raiment. For this was the day of vengeance which was in my heart. That's not going to be in the lesson manual. I haven't even looked at it, but I don't think that'll be in there. And now the year of my redeemed is come, and they shall mention the loving kindness of their Lord and all that he has bestowed upon them according to his goodness and according to his loving kindness forever and ever. It's very similar to the flood, where 8 souls were saved by the destruction of the wicked. 8 souls were saved by water. The baptism of the earth destroyed the wicked. The baptism by fire will do the same, even more intense, which will save the righteous. Okay? And in all their afflictions he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them, and in his love and in his pity he redeemed them and bore them and carried them all the days of old. Yea, and Enoch also, and they who were with him, the prophets who were before him, and Noah, and they who were before him, and Moses, and all they who were before him, and Moses to Elijah, and from Elijah to John, who were with Christ in his resurrection, and the holy apostles, that's John the Baptist, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, shall be in the presence of the Lamb. So this is going to be such an amazing thing to have happen. And the graves of the saints shall be opened, and they shall come forth and stand on the right hand of the Lamb, when he shall stand upon Mount Zion and upon the holy city, the New Jerusalem, and they shall sing and the song of the Lamb day and night forever and ever. This will all be in Jerusalem, in my opinion. Now you'll say, well, the Book of Mormon says it can't be, I think it's in Ether, that it can't be the New Jerusalem that's talked about there, which is true. But Jerusalem rebuilt and a new temple is many times considered or the New Jerusalem as well. So what was happening in Ether, and it was really a commentary, I believe, at that point. No, it was Ether that received the revelation, that there'll be a type or a shadow in the Americas. And that's where our Article of Faith number 10, that Zion will be established in a New Jerusalem. So anyway, it's a type and a shadow. So there actually will be a New Jerusalem in Jerusalem as well, a new temple, which we're all looking forward to. We call it the third temple, and that's why we track the red heifer sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's see, where did I get? Yeah, Enoch. And from Moses, so it goes through all these guys, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all from Israel. And the graves of the saints shall be opened, we read that, and for this cause, that men might be made partakers of the glories which were to be revealed. And the Lord sent forth the fullness of the gospel, his everlasting covenant, which is the new and everlasting covenant, which has nothing to do with polygamy, like section 132 says. It has everything to do with Jesus Christ. He is the covenant, and he is new and everlasting, to prepare the weak for the things which are coming on the earth, and for the Lord errand. So now we're back to preparing for this day. The day when the weak shall confound the wise, and the little one become a strong nation, and two shall put their tens of thousands to flight. Now, this isn't the United States of America. This is Israel. It's the size of the state in size. Geographically is about the size of the state of New Jersey. The whole country, the whole state of New Jersey, or excuse me, of Israel is the size of the state of New Jersey, and it's small, tiny, surrounded by everybody that wants to kill it. And we can see that the Lord is working through them to show forth His strength through His people, and that's why Israel is hated and envied and everything. It's so amazing, the accomplishments of Israel against all odds. And by the weak things, Israel, of the earth, the Lord shall thrash the nations by the power of His Spirit. And for this cause, these commandments were given, that they were commanded to be kept from the world in the day that they were given, but now are to go forth unto all flesh. And this according to the mind and will of the Lord, who ruleth over the flesh. And unto him that repenteth and sanctifieth himself before the Lord shall be given eternal life. And upon them that hearken not to the voice of the Lord, this probably won't be in the manual, because it's a little negative and hurts feelings. And upon them that hearken not to the voice of the Lord shall be fulfilled that which was written by the prophet Moses, that they should be cut off from among the people. And also that which was written by the prophet Malachi, both biblical prophets. For behold, the day cometh that they shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, and the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. You won't have posterity, and you won't have you won't have any tie to your ancestry. Wherefore this shall be the answer of the Lord unto them in that day when I came unto mine own, no man among you received me, and you were driven out. When I called again, was none of you to answer, yet my arm was not shortened at all, that I could not redeem, neither my power to deliver. Behold, at my rebuke, I dry up the sea, I make the rivers wilderness, their fish stink and die for thirst. That won't be in the manual probably. Behold, the Lord your God hath spoken it, amen. And you can read the red. I just finished that quick for you. So now, just to go back to section 132 real quick, an individual sent me a study that Scripture Central had done on section 132 being authored by the prophet Joseph Smith, and showed all the evidence that it indeed was from the prophet Joseph. It's the thing that I find interesting about this study is that there's already an assumption that this is a fact, that Joseph Smith wrote section 132, all of it. And so it's kind of suspect. A lot of it stems from William Clayton, who says that he's the one that wrote it down, but then Emma burned it. And Emma denied that, always denied that, and said, I never did such a thing. I never burned that revelation. But then Clayton says that Kingsbury, I think is his name, and Jeremy Hoops does just the best videos on this. So I recommend you go to his YouTube channel, Jeremy Hoops, who's done all the research on how this felt. So then Kingsbury then copied or heard from William Clayton that revelation, then he copied it down, and that's the copy that Brigham Young had, who said that he kept it in his drawer and never touched it, which isn't can't be true because there were changes made to it before it came. I think it was Parley P. Pratt who talked about it. I believe it was in 1853 in conference, and then it didn't become canonized until 1876, I believe, part of the Doctrine and Covenants. So it has this weird history, and yet everything fits. But one of the things in that study, it says that only verses 1 through 3, and then later verses deal with polygamy, and everything else is just celestial marriage between one man and one woman. Very strange, because let's read this. Let's read the first 3 verses and see why there's a separation. Why, starting with verse 4, because I don't see it. So I'll just finish with this. Verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, my servant Joseph, that inasmuch as ye have inquired of my hand to know and understand wherein I, the Lord, justified my servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which that's a first really weird thing, because Isaac, we have no record, and the inspired version of the Bible of Joseph Smith doesn't make a change, doesn't add that Isaac had a plural wife. But Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the patriarch, Isaac is lumped in as having multiple wives. As also Moses, David, and Solomon, my servants, as touching the principle and doctrine of having many wives and concubines. So Sue and I did a kind of a parody video on that. I really encourage you to watch that because it's really good. Because we have the principle and doctrine of having many wives and concubines. Behold, and lo, I am the Lord thy God, and will answer thee as touching this matter. Therefore prepare thy heart to receive and obey the instructions which I am about to give unto you, for all those who have this law revealed unto them must obey the same. For behold, I reveal unto you the new and everlasting covenant. Now he's revealing the concubine, the law, and the doctrine, or not, excuse me, the principle and the doctrine, and later he calls it the law, of many wives and concubines. Verse 4 is revealing it to him. And yet in that study, they separate that, verse 4, all through until they get to, I don't know, where it gets specific about Abraham, and then never really talks much about Solomon. It talks about David, and that all of his wives and concubines were given to him, except for in the case of Uriah and Bathsheba. Uriah being the husband who David put in harm's way and was killed to get him out of the way. And then he had the adulterous relationship with Bathsheba, which then Solomon came from, that union. And a lot of people, it's so interesting because a lot of people will say, oh, well, polygamy, look at all the good that came and all the good people. And so you're saying that, I'm bad because polygamy. No, because Christ himself came from that lineage of David and Bathsheba, which even 132 says that was bad, but Christ came from that lineage. It's showing that Christ's earthly lineage came from really rough background, and there's way more than that. You have Boaz and Ruth, Ruth being a Moabite. You have Rahab, who was Boaz's great-great-grandma, and she was a harlot and a Canaanite. Tamar and Judah, Tamar's daughter-in-law, that's the lineage. So it's just so cool because Christ is King of Kings through his Father, but yet he descended below us all in his earthly background, right, to become what he became. So anyway, I can't even remember where I was going with this, but oh yeah. So verse 4, 5, 6, 7, all of that has to do with polygamy. And yet this study, show me where I'm wrong, that isn't the explanation for the Principle and doctrine of many wives and concubines, starting with verse 4 and going all the way through. So the whole thing's about plural marriage, and that the new and everlasting covenant is that specifically. There's so many issues with Section 132, but I didn't want to get into all that. Okay, I know this is a bit convoluted. Still waiting for our 16th grandchild, I believe. Isn't that bad? A little past the due date, due time, and things can get intense when a mom is about ready to deliver, and they're at their wits' end. It's pretty intense. It's pretty awesome. I would not even justify any opposition to a woman having a bit of an attitude at this stage in the game. Did I say that in a smooth way? Probably not. Anyway, it's all good. We're in Texas for Thanksgiving, a birth of a grandson, and it's all going to be good. But I wanted to cover these things. I know it's a bit shoddy. I understand that, and you guys are so patient with me and willing to listen to what I had to say. But the word of the Lord is from, in all these verses, is first to Judah and Jerusalem, and then in the shadow to us. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. If I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving to God for all of our blessings, even all of our trials and tribulations, because that's what rounds us off, breaks off our sharp edges, and causes us to have more compassion for those around us that are going through similar things. It's all for the glory of God, and which I give glory to him through his son, Jesus Christ. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.